Call to order the August 6th Heritage Preservation Commission meeting. Liz, if you would take roll call, please.
They will. Davies?
Here.
Mueller?
Here.
Welbert?
Here.
St. John? And Vice Chair Coleman.
Here. That moves us on to item number 3, adopting the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Motion by Mueller, seconded by
I'll second.
Wilbert to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes. Motion carries. That moves us on to item 4, number 4, visitor presentation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak about something that is not already on the agenda? A few minutes. Now we move on to item number 5, approving the previous HPC minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the April 2nd, 2019 HPC minutes?
Yes.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
So move. Second.
Motion by Davies, second by Mueller to approve the April 2nd, 2019 HPC minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes, motion carries. That moves us on to item number 8, other business, since we do not have any consent or action items this evening. I am asking each commissioner if they would like to discuss anything under other business.
Nothing to add, nothing to talk about. Otherwise, I have a couple things.
Liz, would you go ahead, please?
I just have a couple things to
Sure.
talk about. One of them being, I just want to give you an update on the S-Lot and the Ernst home development. Since we approved the site alteration permit back in April of this year, it's been several months since we've seen this, and it's kind of been going down the process with the city on the planning side of things. So I just want to give you an update of where they're at so far. So they got their concept plan approved, as well as their preliminary site and building plan approved with Planning Commission and City Council. So the very last step that they have to do is get final site and building plan and final plat approval with us. So typically when they go through that process, it does go through a couple iterations of the actual site plan and building plan, depending on the comments that they receive through that process. So really what we saw back in April has changed a little bit from then, so I just kind of want to go over that. And they are very, I would say, minor changes to what we typically deal with on the HPC level. You're more so concerned with kind of how the streetscape looks, since this is in the Walnut Street Historic District. So really everything that we saw in April in terms of the streetscape still remains the same. The real item of note that has changed is in the rear of the property on the west side. The layout has changed just a little bit, as well as the overall unit count out there. So if you can remember, there was a total of 7 rental units that were proposed in 3 different buildings. And that was encompassed by 2 rental units in the Ernst home, 3 units in the townhome building to the north of that, and then there was a carriage home just to the west or in the rear of the property that would have 2 more rental units. The developer has basically been going back and forth with their contractor, and the amount for the construction of these units is getting to a steeper level than they predicted. So they have made some changes that would help kind of cut back on the construction costs of this. So the big change that has occurred since your formal approval is the removal of the carriage home altogether. So that was that 2-story building in the back, which had the covered garages and then the 2 units above it on the 2nd floor. So they have modified that entirely now. I should just go to the original. So this was the original site plan with the carriage home building just in the rear there, and the 7 internal garage spaces for each of the units on the ground level, and then 2 of the rental units on top of that. And then there was a surface parking lot access from the alleyway just behind that as well. So since that time, they have modified basically that western rear area to eliminate the carriage home units and then replace them with just single-story covered garage stalls. So it eliminates 2 of the units in the carriage home, and then they are also looking at the Ernst home as just a single unit, a single rental unit, instead of 2 separate units. So nothing really is changing with the building except for the exterior staircase that they are proposing in the back to be eliminated. So if they're, since they'll only be having 1 unit inside the Ernst home, there wasn't a necessity for the exterior staircase. So those are the big changes. There's nothing changing with the townhome building. It'll stay the exact same the way we approved it back in April. So it's really just that major site and downsizing change that they've done since April. So again, they're still maintaining access off the alleyway. In fact, the access point is a little bit better than what was proposed before, just due to the grades out there. And then each unit will actually have a 2-car garage stall with their unit. So it's definitely more of a positive marketing tool when they do start to advertise these. I will note that they have not yet submitted for a final site and building plan and a final plat with us quite yet, so this could change a little bit more from now up until that point, because I know they're still trying to figure out their numbers and so forth. But I did want to just, at least give you the update now in terms of where they're at, and if with these changes you are comfortable with it moving forward, or you'd like to see an additional site alteration permit come through for these changes. From a staff perspective, since the streetscape is not differentiating from our original approvals, and this has nothing to do with the Ernst home, we feel that it is minor enough to continue moving forward, but we also do want to give you that voice and direction if you feel that based on where they're at now, you'd feel more comfortable with it coming back through the site alteration permit process. So, does anyone have any questions right now?
I have a question.
Yep.
Is it still a rental project, or are they going to
Yes.
sell?
Yes, it is a rental project. Yep. So it will all be 1 lot at the end of this. Right now, it's 2 separate lots, but it'll all be 1 lot by the time they're done with it. So all the units will be rental. No owner-occupied units as a part of that.
The first diagram had, you called it surface parking?
Yep.
And is there still going to be, because that would have been like, not just for the people, that'd been for anybody to
No,
park?
it would have just been
for them.
the
Okay.
rental units. In
Okay.
order for them to.
To get into their,
Yep, and
Okay.
for them to meet parking code too, they had to have the garage stalls in the surface parking lot. Because you have to have 2 stalls, parking stalls per unit,
okay.
essentially. So with the downsizing, they'll be doing that with an interior garage stalls per unit with this change. So, but yeah, that's the difference, is they had a surface parking lot outdoor for about 6 stalls, and then everything is gonna be inside now, a parking garage, essentially.
Might be a bigger cell that way.
It might be, yeah. Again, they're trying to make these changes that would be most financially feasible and most economically feasible as they start to gear up for marketing it.
What's happening in the backyard between the triple unit and the garages there?
Right
Yeah, right
here?
there, yeah.
So they'll have more of a communal patio and barbecue area. So instead of it being kind of individual yard spaces like the previous, they are now just having a more communal, bigger patio space for any of the residents to use back there. And it could very well go back to the same layout and site plan that we previously approved. But given kind of where they're at financially, this is kind of what they're pursuing right now. But I know they are using TIF in order to help fund the project. So that will kind of dictate the direction that it will continue to go down. So, if you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Seems like it, like I said, it'd be a good selling point because, just what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
Does anybody have anything on that?
I'm good. It
Commissioner?
looks nice.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why I would need to go through this process again, that's
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously.
Yeah, because I'm fine with that, with what they're doing.
Okay. Obviously, what was I gonna say? If it changes any more than what we have originally seen, I will definitely let you know. But otherwise, we're just gonna continue down kind of the normal process that we take it through. So the last step will be final approval with Planning Commission and City Council, which I think they anticipate to try to do by the end of the year. This year, November or December is their anticipated timeline, so.
They've already ran that by the city?
No.
Okay,
They still have
okay.
to apply for final
Okay.
site
Oh,
and
okay.
building plan.
All right.
So we're just waiting for them to kind of get back to us on when they anticipate submitting for that. So,
So it's definitely a 2020 project?
yes, construction-wise, yep. Yep. I only had a couple other things just to make note of that I included in your packet for the meeting. One of them being, I just wanted to do a shameless shout out to the Historical Society, who is currently running an exhibit right now for the World War I and World War II. Chaska during that time, the fight overseas and the support at home. So they have that exhibit set up at the History Center here in downtown. And I definitely suggest anyone to go and check it out because they put a lot of time and work
really
into
did.
those exhibits. And, having people come and checking it out is definitely a plus for us to see kind of the history of Chaska, specifically to that time frame of the community. So I believe that's supposed to run up until the fall this year. I can't remember what their exact end date was on that, but it
It
has
says
been-
November 15th, but
November 15th is the end date for that. So it'll be up for quite a while, but it'll definitely be,
I would suggest going to see it
Yeah.
if you haven't. It's
Good
really,
Veterans Day stuff.
yeah, that's a really good Veterans Day thing.
yeah, absolutely. Right during Veterans Day.
Yeah, it's right
so
that
that'll-
time.
Yeah, that'll be good timing.
I don't know if it's Veterans Day.
It's usually in the first.
It's something around there, yeah.
November 11th is
Okay.
Veterans Day.
All right, so it's right
4
after.
days
Yep.
after that it closes. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is the annual State Historic Preservation Conference that's coming up in September. They do that from September 11th through the 13th, I believe. And And this year, it's gonna be in St. Cloud, Minnesota, so they do have kind of their own historic district over there. They tend to choose a bigger, somewhat bigger city that has historic preservation as a part of their community or a part of their downtown, or they have a lot of notable buildings there. They tend to do it in areas that have those districts. But it's always a very beneficial conference to go to. I go to it every year and I learn a lot of new things and meet a lot of different community members who have their own historic preservation commissions as well. So that's open to not only staff, but HPC members that are interested in wanting to go.
Do you have to go all 4 days or?
Nope, nope. And it's
Or
only.
3 days? 3 days.
It's from the 11th to the 13th. The 11th is more of an orientation in the evening, but the 11th, or the 12th and the 13th are more of those full-day work sessions that you can go to and learn about different topics of interest related to historic preservation. So I know it's, I think $70 for just one day and then $100 for the whole span of the conference. So if you're interested in going, I highly recommend it if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about historic preservation. So, and I can help you sign up if you guys have questions on that. It's pretty straightforward, so.
Thank you.
Otherwise, that is everything that I got.
I think he's just an observer.
Did you have anything to, you're just here to join? Okay, all right, sounds good. I just want to make sure that we're not forgetting about the audience here.
He's my friend. Thank you very much, Liz.
Yep.
Does anybody have anything else? I know I asked that before, but nothing?
Yeah, usually other business, you know, if there's certain events going on in town, this would be the time to talk about it. You know, if you want to talk about River City Days or maybe an exhibit that you've been to or whatever,
Well,
feel free to.
Then I actually do have something.
Great.
I was talking to Pastor Barry at St. John's, and I don't know if everybody knows him or not. He's been there about a year. And he had mentioned to me tonight that the gentleman that purchased the Klein building, which used to have the driver's training in the bottom or whatever, the driver, whatever, and he said he's trying to restore that to its original whatever. And I gave him the information that I had, which, I mean, if anybody else would like to interject anything else, but I gave him either go to the Historic Society, obviously, or go to Mark at the Chaska Herald. He might have taken pictures of what it looked like, you know, at some point, or has pictures on, you know. So I don't know if anybody else has any other thing that, you know, but I thought that was kind of neat that he's trying to restore it to the original rather than, you know, changing everything and, you know, modernizing it or whatever, I
You're
thought.
talking about. the-
Now, I want to say it's the second one in, right? That's where they used to have remember in the basement?
The,
Klein.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Klein,
I mean,
Klein,
the city hall was on the one on the left.
yeah,
It was on the corner one.
Yeah,
yeah.
Corner building.
yeah.
And they used to have the driver training that's now in another building. They used to have that right down in the basement. I remember going down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in the other one, the second one.
The second one over, and that's the one he must be talking about, though.
Yeah, that's the one
Because
that
he
was
said that's the one.
That was
he's
a
trying to
B and B
Yeah,
last.
yeah.
Last, I think it was it.
And again, we're talking about the inward one, right? Or the corner one?
Yes, the inward one.
Okay. Well, that one, that Klein Mansion, the city of Chaska owns it. So,
I don't know who's restoring it, though. Somebody's
Yeah.
restoring it.
and I'm not aware of that either. But it could be that we're mixing up one or two of the buildings over there. Because there's obviously several
Yeah.
on that street front on that
I mean, I can
block.
get more information and present it next time, too.
Well, obviously, if there's gonna be work being done on one of those buildings. We're gonna find out about it.
Yep, yep.
And learn more about what they're doing, so.
Right.
If we find out more, we'll obviously keep
Yep.
you updated on that, but as of
So I
right
just,
now.
I heard that tonight. That's the first I've heard of this, so.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
like it when people
Yep.
put that investment into downtown and specifically
Mm-hmm.
those historic
Because
buildings.
the other one, the old city hall, that had, was that still actively, was somebody looking at that?
Yes.
It was like a year ago or something that they were,
So if you know the livery building on Pine Street that just got restored about 2 or 3 years ago now. So the owners of that building are currently working on the CP Klein Mansion that's on the corner of 4th and Walnut there. They've been mainly doing interior work, mostly on kind of the upper levels and trying to revitalize that essentially. So they haven't been doing anything that would prompt them to get a site alteration permit because it's more maintenance work that they're doing and trying to repair kind of what's out there currently. I don't know if you've noticed, but they did remove the exterior staircase on that building, which was like that old steel staircase that they had in there for when it was used as City Hall and had other residential units on the upper levels, so it was a building code thing, but they have since removed that. They're trying to do a lot of things to get it back to kind of its original working order out there. So they've been doing a lot of work that you can't necessarily see, but trying to get it back to original status, so.
yeah, those three pictures on the end are the old, was the
Yep.
third floor
That's true.
of that city, that was the city council chamber.
Yep. It would be pretty cool to have meetings back in that building, but it definitely doesn't look like that anymore.
I know I went to a few meetings there. That's how far back I go.
Yeah.
Anything new on the hammers, the lady that was working on the hammers?
I'm gonna have to get an update from her, because currently the developer is working on their EAW, their environmental assessment worksheet, which takes a lot of time, a lot of different departments and different reports that have to be put together for that entire report that goes out to the state. So they're currently doing that right now. They're trying to get a gauge from MnDOT on whether or not they're gonna allow an access onto Highway 41. If you remember from the concept plan that we looked at, they have basically their main entrance coming off of Highway 41 as the main inlet into the development. With initial discussions with MnDOT, they've always been kind of hesitant about, you know, the access that goes onto 41. So we're currently trying to work with the developer on figuring out kind of a way to approach them with the project where they would favorably receive it and be able to grant access onto their highway, because without that access, it could very well kill the project. So I know they're actively working on that right now and getting that all prepared. And I think their anticipation is to get that wrapped up hopefully by this fall, if not late end of this year. And get that through the process and reviewed by the state to kind of see where they land with that. Because really, I'm sure Kirsten, who was the individual working on the Hammers house or Hammers Saloon, she's kind of waiting for a little bit more firm answers from kind of the deciding people of this project before she probably starts investing and puts together some plans for the property and so forth, because obviously we don't want her to spend any money until they have a pretty firm indication from MnDOT that the access is going to be granted. So we don't have a lot of updates on her side of things, but I'm sure as soon as we get
So
more
there's a
answers
good
on
chance
that.
this could get kicked, the can could get kicked down the road another year then.
It could. I think we're hopeful that we'll be able to work with MnDOT for them to agree to an access there, whether it's just a write-in or a write-in, write-out. But it's always hard to say how they're gonna react to things. They've always been pretty firm in their standards and their, just access onto the highway in general.
Well, yeah, because it
So-
makes U-turns, you know, you're doing at
Yeah.
every place to get
Exactly.
access.
Yeah.
It's-
Right, yeah, they have certain spacing requirements, then you also have to put in turn lanes and so forth. So we're trying to set it up where we're showing them that, you know, there's adequate right-of-way for them to put in the access. This project for an active adult community is far better in terms of a traffic impact compared to a traditional single-family. So, you know, if just generally speaking, if they didn't allow this development to put in the access, they're gonna go away, and we could very well have, you know, a detached single-family developer come in and develop the property, because it allows for that type of use there, in which case it would intensify the traffic way more than an active senior community. So we're trying to portray that to MnDOT to show that this is a great project for the site, and it would be a good project for Highway 41, and specifically that intersection at Victoria Drive and Highway 41. So we'll see how they react to all that, but it is a matter of just being able to give them that information in a positive way where they'll see it as a good thing to go there, and hopefully they'll be favorable to some of our requests as well. So, more to come on that. We'll let you know if anything changes. It's definitely a process when you have to go through an EAW. You have to do a lot of research and putting together different reports in terms of archaeology and traffic and environmental impacts. So it takes time, and yeah, we're hopeful that it'll still continue moving forward. So.
Anything new on City Square West as far as,
I can't remember where we left off, but I don't really have any updates for that quite yet, because.
is there somebody that's doing a takeoff plan on it?
No.
That's actively working on it?
No, not yet, because we went through kind of like the very, very preliminary objective and very preliminary design kind of review and commentary on it last year. So that's when we had the task force and the different commissions involved and so forth to kind of provide objectives for the project and kind of general comments for the project. But since that point, I think our main thing has always been that we want to make sure that we can figure out kind of the tenant situation and the purchase agreement with the property owners over there. Get that all figured out before we start advertising it and moving forward with very specific and detailed plans. So I know where we've basically left off right now is more of our administration department is kind of working through the details of the purchase agreement and working with the tenants as well. I don't think they finalized any purchase agreement quite yet, but that would be kind of the trigger point for them to start actively seeking out opportunities for the other tenants there in terms of, do they relocate here in Chaska? Where can we accommodate that? Are they gonna go in groups and try to do a project together, or are they gonna be separated and find their own spaces? I mean, I know I haven't been a part of that process, but people in our administration department and are trying to gauge that from the tenants there to figure out kind of where they want to be. But we don't have any specific details on that quite yet, because I don't think we've solidified a purchase agreement with the property owners over there yet. So one thing at a time for that process. But once we know more on that, we'll keep
So they
you
wouldn't have
apprised.
any idea when that's gonna, project is even gonna start if they don't have any.
Yeah, I think we've always projected, I mean, from this timing, the earliest probably for construction would be 2021, for them to get through the process and figure out who's developing it, who's owning it, what uses and so forth. I think that's our earliest timeline is 2021, 2022. So we'll see how it kind of moves forward.
I was even asked to this weekend about that project. So I mean, obviously it's a hum out there. You know, people are definitely.
Yeah, it's
you
still
know,
on the radar,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I know, the tenants call every now and then to get an update too, but, yeah, we still have to do one thing at a time, you know, with the purchase agreement, and then figuring out kind of how to, accommodate the tenants in some way, so, we're just not there yet, which will be.
Did they decide on which site the library was going to be at?
Not formally, I would say, since we haven't really done any formal approvals yet, but where we left it off, it was between a couple sites, so it was between the DMV site, the Guardian Angels school site, and then, what was the other one? Or leaving it in the same location. No, there was another site, which I can't think of. I know just based on kind of the comments that we've received from the task force and others, I think they were kind of split between the DMV site and the Guardian Angels site. Oh, the other site was the Moravian Church site. That was the third site, but I think because it was across 41, it wasn't as desirable compared to Guardian Angels and DMV, being closer to City Square West and to City Hall without having to cross a major highway. So those two sites were looked at, or considered more desirable for the relocation of the library. But nothing's really set in stone with that yet. I mean, obviously that doesn't really happen until things start to pick up on the City Square West site. But that's where it got left off with council.
Yeah, I think there's some interest out in the community on that, because I heard someone say it was the DMV, or that site, and apparently it isn't for sure.
I would say, you know, it was starting to go in that direction, just because it'll have direct access onto the regional trail there when it gets constructed. So there's definitely a plus with that. But again, nothing's set in stone right now. Things can change. I don't want to project a statement that we're finalized on a certain site quite yet, because we're just not there yet.
Okay.
Since everything is kind of connected right now, it's as soon as the City Square West site kind of gets figured out, then we'll start to see more movement on the discussions with the library site too, so.
Thank you. Anyone else? Have anything? No? Liz, do you have anything more?
believe we
Thank you very
covered
much for your
everything.
input. Sorry?
I believe we covered everything.
You covered
so,
everything?
Yep.
Thank you very much, and
Yeah.
more, yeah. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Mueller and Commissioner Wolvert have made motions to adjourn, and we are adjourned.